Welcome into another edition of the Demon Huddle presented by Cross Financial Group here on YouTube, joined as always by a well-rested, if there is such a thing, during week 10 of a football season, head coach Blaine McCorkle. Coach, welcome back. Bye week is now in the rearview mirror. We'll talk a little bit about that, but did you enjoy your extra hour of sleep or whatever you did with daylight saving time?
Yeah, I guess that happened. I think the natural tendency is to think an open date is a restful week, and you hope it is for your players. We try to take care of them and let them rest up a little bit. But for our coaches, we stayed on track and we're grinding pretty good and looking ahead to our next opponent and doing a little bit of self-scout along the way. And then a lot of our coaches were on the road recruiting. So sometimes your coaches actually come back more tired, that's the word, after an open date than they do before. So hopefully we got something out of it. And yeah, back to game week this week. And sometimes that week gets long, it gets long and you get anxious to go again, but it's very necessary to heal up some bodies and evaluate yourself and see where you are. So we needed it, but now we're ready to get back to work.
Is it simply because for the first, especially this deep into the season, you played 9 straight weeks, you were in a rhythm, you were in the here's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, all so on and so forth, with the exception of the 2 early Thursday games, but for the past 6 weeks, you knew every Monday what was going to happen and so on and so forth. Do you think that adds to making the week feel a little longer?
Yeah, I think so. I think the never-ending debate in college football is when is the best time to have your bye week. Perfect world, you probably have it dead in the middle of the season. Some people like it early. Some people maybe like it, mid to late to heal some guys up, depending on where your season's going. And there is no perfect answer for when is the great time. After 9 games is a little bit later than normal, especially with the type season we're having. But it does throw your rhythm off because there definitely is a process to game week. Every day of the week has a unique goal and rhythm to it as you work your way to Saturday. And then when you get out of that rhythm, your body, your clock does get a little bit out of whack. So it was nice today to kind of get back in a normal rhythm and back on game week, but while still being ahead because you did have last week to prepare for your next opponent a little bit.
So we talked about bye week, and I thought it was really funny. I ran into you Tuesday or Wednesday of bye week, and you said, well, not much of a bye week for a head coach because everyone thinks, as you mentioned, oh, you got a bye week, you got nothing to do. Can you do this, this, and this?
That's right. Yeah, everybody wants to call you. They think you're doing you a favor, but they're really not. To hit you up on the bye week because we're still working, whatever. So the week does fill up pretty fast for everybody, not just the head coach. But like I said, it was a productive week, and I think we got a lot out of it and checked a lot of boxes, and we're in position to move forward on this last 3-week push.
We have a lot of fun with James Stanfield, our ESPN Plus coordinator, during baseball season with the lower thirds and things like that. He'll have some for your boy Patrick Netherton.
Right.
May have you pick some of those words.
Gladly.
We'll see what we can get on there.
I can always help Patrick out.
Yeah. But if we put something under Blaine McCorkle during bye week, would it have been Blaine McCorkle the Saturday of bye week? Wouldn't it have been Blaine McCorkle head coach? What would it have said under Blaine McCorkle if we had a lower third for you on Saturday?
Probably anxious because you feel kind of out of place because you do get in the rhythm and it's an off day and we gave our whole program off on Saturday, which is usually game day, but my daughter was making fun of me. She took a picture of me for her Snapogram or whatever one time where I had 3 different screens going, watching different games, and they're all Southland games, So in theory, you're at home, you're relaxing, you're eating a good meal on your couch, but you're working at the same time because you're tracking all of the games. And it's fun to watch other people. You get to watch them in a little bit different light other than just the film. You can watch the ESPN Plus feeds and things like that. But it's restful, but you're a little bit out of place and out of sorts at the same time.
Did you when you said you're anxious, were you moving around or were you able to actually sit and relax a little bit?
A little bit of both. So you're up and about, and that's always a good day to do some things with the kids and a few honeydews as well. But I think we took a trip downtown, but I had the screen going on my phone the whole time watching Lamar and Southeastern while we were running some errands. So it's restful work, I'll say that.
You're never completely out of it.
Never off duty.
Well, as you mentioned, we've talked about the whistle, or at least Patrick has during some of the broadcasts that shows you're always in it. So I did like Snapogram. I like that.
I don't know what
that's probably it's an amalgamation of everything. But bye week, you had a very interesting term. I think a lot of people talk about how to handle it. You called it preseason. Thought that was very interesting. And how did preseason number 2 go for this team?
Well, I think it was preseason. We're sitting at a spot where we haven't won a game yet this year. We've got 3 games to go, so let's really focus in and have a 3-game season and be the best we can and try to have a winning season in that second season. So it really is a back to work, and I think when your team is as young as ours is, you can't relax on anything. You got to keep constantly working to get better. And there were a few times during the week where we took a lot of our scout guys, our rookies, our guys who haven't gotten many reps, and they lined up and scrimmaged, and they played football, and we wanted to get a chance to evaluate those guys, let those guys get seen on film and kind of know where they are. So in 3 weeks when the season's over and you get ready to start planning for spring practice, you kind of know where you are and can kind of get a jump start on some of those things. But you're always building, you're always growing, you're always looking to get better. And, we've talked before on here, we're not trying to get a quick fix. We're trying to build a cathedral. Cathedral takes a long time to build. That doesn't mean we don't want to win right now. We want to go down and beat Southeastern and Hammond this week. But we are always thinking big picture and how can you get better. So there was a little bit of a, take care of our bodies, but have a preseason, get better, constant, continual improvement mindset with it as well.
Southeastern, you mentioned the opponent Saturday night. There's going to be some other stuff we'll talk about that may affect that game. Aside from just lining up and playing 11 on 11. But this is a Southeastern team that 5 games in was 1-4. 5 games later is 5-5, and a game back of UIW in the conference race. Can you kind of pinpoint a turnaround for them?
Yeah, scheduling. It's really no surprise. And if you study our conference the last few years, I think it was just a year ago, I think there were only 2 non-conference wins in the entire conference for the whole year, because we do tend to, because you have to have the money games and things like that as a conference as a whole, schedule a little bit out of our mind sometimes. So, they opened up with a loss to Tulane, expected. They lost to Southern Miss, expected. And then they have 3 losses to top 20 teams. They lost to Incarnate Word, who's number 9 in the country this week, pretty much on the last play of the game, 34-31. They lost to Tarleton, who's a top 15 team, and they lost to South Dakota State, who's number 1 in the nation. So either 5 losses or 5 legitimate losses. But if you look at the body of work and you watch these guys on film, I will say it without a shadow of a doubt, they are the best team we will play this year in the Southland Conference. Incarnate Word's kind of head and shoulders above everybody right now. We don't play them this year, but Southeastern is legitimate. They're big, they're physical, they're fast, they're extremely well coached. They've got great schemes on offense. They're simple on defense. They just line up and beat you. We will not play a better one this fall in the Southland Conference in Southeastern Louisiana. And
again, I think we talked about it. Frank Selfo's been there for several years now, and you talked about building the cathedral, kind of the same thing with him. He's been there not quite as long as Tim Rebo down at Nichols, but those two have been down along I-12 and Highway 90 for long enough to have their pillars in the ground.
That's right. I think Coach Rebo's been there 10 years, and Coach Selfo's on his 7th. And I've mentioned before, anytime we have our conference meetings, if those 2 guys are sitting at the table, that's where I'm going to sit. And I just want to listen and kind of absorb and kind of, garner a little bit of how they got where they are, because you're never too old to learn, right? And those guys have got a lot of years. They're both a few years older than me, and I kind of joke that Frank Selfo is the godfather in this league. He kind of runs that show, and I got a lot of respect for him. He does a great job, and he's a guy that I've gotten to know him a little bit. You can tell he does these things for the right reasons. He kind of cares about his kids and building the program and doing things right. And I like the way that he's running that program, and there's a lot to look to there and admire. And there's a lot to look to and admire in their bodies too. I mean, they've got some good-looking kids on there on both sides of the ball. Some of these defensive linemen and linebackers, they've got a kid, Shamar Pearl. He looks like the mannequin in Dick's Sporting Goods. I mean, he's big, long arm, trim, cut up, and it's an impressive group, and we got our work cut out for us.
So you sit with Selfo. We've talked about this several times. Miss Gina, obviously Italian background.
That's right, yeah.
Any recipes being exchanged there, or is it simply football talk?
Yeah, I don't know. It's a lot of coaching talk. She may be the best coach at the table when we're all sitting there, but they enjoy visiting with each other as well. And they both probably could swap some if they needed to. So she's too healthy for all that. She's Italian, but she's too healthy to get into all that stuff.
Well, Anthony Selfo, son of Frank, obviously coached here for a couple of years as an assistant. Probably one of my favorite people in the conference just because I've gotten to know him. We share some ties, some good buddies down there. But when you look at going into, we said we were going to talk about a little something that's going to possibly affect that game, and you're going to have to go back about 6-7 weeks now for how you handled SEMO. When there was a weather questions surrounding that game, obviously we're filming this on Monday. We'll put it up on Wednesday. There's a lot of time for the Gulf to do what the Gulf does, but you could be in another situation where you're having to be a little bit flexible with your travel, with your preparation.
Yeah, we will. And, the beauty of that is Dan Korn, who we'll hear from in a little while, our football operations director, does a great job navigating all those things for us. And he is so detailed and so organized that if there's a bump in the road, he's going to have an answer, and he's going to be able to help us adjust as need be. And I think everybody will enjoy hearing from him here in a bit. But the thing about, you play the game in bad weather where it's a little bit different than SEMO. SEMO was going to throw the ball 90% of the time. Southeastern's a whole lot more balanced, and you mentioned Anthony Selfo as the offensive coordinator. I think Frank probably has his fingerprint on that, and then Anthony's kind of running it, with all the shifts, the motions, the trades. lots of formations. That's kind of that NFL footprint maybe that Frank brought with him, and Anthony has done a tremendous job with it. And they're a lot of fun, and Coach Connors talked a lot this week just about how creative they are and how it takes a lot of work. So they're a fun offense to watch and study, but then you got to find a way to stop them. So they are an offense regardless of the weather. They'll have answers, and we've got to be able to adjust as well.
So again, I think we talked about it a couple of weeks ago, eye discipline.
That's right.
Assignment football and eye discipline. Again, when you have the pre-snap eye candy and this guy's going here, and you look at what, go national, Ohio State did to Penn State. There are a lot of, the Kotelnicki offense is a lot of moving. You saw an offensive lineman going in motion.
That's right, yeah. I loved it.
We made Johnny Mitchell running in motion
maybe not.
in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
But, but again, it was sound, disciplined football that got them the win. And probably the same thing. You want to see it every week, but when you're dealing with a team that does have a lot of eye candy.
Yeah, and defensively, every week we go through our keys to victory: offense, defense, kick game, and that is one of them on the defensive side of the ball this week. Is that we've got to have great eye discipline and we've got to communicate. You got to have a voice back there in the back that's, when he speaks, everybody's got to listen and be tuned into what he's telling you, what he's seeing, and you can't play the game out there by yourself, as we kind of expressed to the guys this week. They've got to work together to communicate and be in the right spots, and not give angles and grass and leverage that we don't need to give up, because they will take advantage of it.
And do you think with some of that, as you get guys deeper into the system, the communication should, as long as everyone stays healthy and within range of each other, I guess, should improve week to week?
Yeah, you hope so. And, one thing that does hurt that is it's no secret we've had a lot of injuries throughout the year on both sides of the ball. That is one thing that's nice about the open date is we will get some bodies back in some spots. So there may be a little bit more veteran guys in some certain positions on both sides of the ball. So I think those things will help naturally, because even though those guys have been out, they've been in tune and locked in and studying in the meetings and kind of flowing with the growth of the defense and the offense for some of those guys returning. So hopefully some of those things will help us.
But again, also, you're okay with playing those freshmen?
Oh, no doubt, and we're going to. The same model we had 2 weeks ago against Lamar, we're going to do it the rest of the year and let those guys play. Because, like we said, we are building this thing big picture long term, and that doesn't mean we're going to sacrifice any wins right now, because, we learned, a couple weeks ago, some of those guys might just give us a better chance to win than we thought they would in a hurry. So we're excited about those young guys in all three phases, and we'll probably play a few more this week, so we're excited about that, and those guys are excited, and, competition creates some production sometimes, and there's a lot of competition right now at a lot of spots, and that's fun to watch, and that's pretty encouraging for the future.
Well, after a week off, I know you're ready to see your guys get back out there and compete against someone else. Blaine McCorkle, Northwestern State head coach. As always, thank him for his time. We'll get ready to hear from Director of Football Operations Dan Korn when the Demon Huddle, presented by Cross Financial Group, rolls on here on YouTube.
Super One Foods is proud to be named the official grocery store of the Northwestern State University Demons. No matter where you gather to watch the game, we've got everything you need at Super One Foods, all at super low prices. Plus, you can order online and enjoy same-day pickup with our convenient curbside service. Talk about a game changer. Score big when you shop at Super One Foods, your official NSU Demons grocery store.
Welcome back to the Demon Huddle, presented by Cross Financial Group. Joined, a little bit of curveball, a little bit different rotation as we get back from bye week. Joined now by Director of Football Operations Dan Korn, longtime Director of Football Operations here. Dan, for people that don't know, because if you're looking at this and you see your name on a website or on a roster and you see Director of Football Operations, what exactly does a Director of Football Operations do for the uninitiated?
I'm the guy that tries to make the head coach's job as simple as possible. I take away all the administrative duties, all the operational duties, so he can concentrate on coaching.
So you got your hands full.
Got my hands full, yeah, a little bit of everything. I'm kind of involved in a little bit of everything. I've always told Coach I like to view myself as like a GM at the collegiate level.
So when it comes to this, what's been your favorite part of it? Because you talked about, you've got personnel stuff, you've got operations stuff, you've got travel, you've got this, you've got that, you've got some random guy coming in and telling you, hey, I need to talk to players.
Right.
What's been your favorite part of that? What's your favorite part of this whole amalgam of what you've got going?
One of the favorite things that I've always loved doing is every coach that I've worked for at Northwestern has let me be the NFL liaison. I love meeting with the NFL scouts when they come in looking at our kids, because they're showing interest in Northwestern State, and I absolutely love that, pushing those kids to those scouts. It's because we've had a great showing here at Northwestern State through the years as far as what we've done from an NFL standpoint, and that's only going to get better with what we're doing with this staff right now.
And for those of you who don't know, Dan has a certain favorite NFL team. If you've been to his office, you know. And for those of you who don't, it is the
Green Bay Packers.
And you are a shareholder.
I am a shareholder. My son, my daughter, and myself, we're all shareholders. Yes, my dad was born and raised in Green Bay, so I've been a Packer backer my entire life, and that's why I got into football, because of my love for the Green Bay Packers.
So we've talked kind of about what you did. If you go back, and I do laugh because you've got maybe the longest bio on the website. It makes me chuckle, and it's not a bad thing because you've done a lot more than just football here, and I think that's something people don't realize. For as long as you were the football operations guy and the NFL liaison, your time here stretches much farther back.
Yeah, I actually got my start, believe it or not, in sports information. I worked with Doug Ireland back in the day when I was a student assistant. I've worked on the Demon Sports Network. I was a analyst for football. I was a studio host for football. I did basketball. I did baseball. I was also the athletic ticket manager here for 2 years. I've been the sports director at both at the TV station that we had here in Natchitoches at one point, and I was also the sports director at both radio stations here in town. So a little bit of everything.
How did that myriad experience, how did that play into what you do? Because you got your hand to this pot, you got your hand to this pot, you've been in the media, you've been in tickets, you've been this. How has that helped you in this role? Well,
I always wanted to get into football. I just could not get my foot in the door. And, I told you we had a TV station here at one point, and after 3 years, the station went under. At the time, I was doing Steve Roberts, the head coach. I was doing the coaches show at that point. And Steve approached me. He said, "Hey, look, we're looking for a guy to do video. I do not have a video coordinator." And we sat down and talked about it. I said, "I'll tell you what, I'm looking to get into operations. That really interests me. I will come shoot video for you if you let me handle operations for you." And it kind of took off from that point.
We talked with Coach about it, and this is Monday. We'll post this Wednesday. We'll play Saturday. Right now, there's something swirling in the Gulf.
Yes.
And I'm sure you're part-time weatherman too.
Yeah.
We joked with Chris Bertrand and the softball coaches that have come through here. They've got to be weathermen and weatherwomen in the spring. Every time something crops up,
Absolutely.
They're looking at radar. You're doing the same thing.
Yeah.
And you're dealing with something that's 4 or 5 days out when you're 4 or 5 days out. What are the challenges inherent in that?
Always have to have contingency plans, and that's where Coach McCorkle's great, because we sit down, we talk all the time. I mean, he's got that open door policy. Never been with a head coach in my entire time here at Northwestern that sits down and talks to me as much as he does, and he gives me a lot of leeway. I mean, he's very receptive, and pretty much it's my show, and he lets me run with it, and that's what I love about it. But if I have concerns, I go to him, he comes to me, but that communication, and that's the most important thing, is always open.
Well, you survived Doug Ireland. I mean, that's we got 2 of them here that survived him. So,
that's right.
You had to be tough to get through that.
Absolutely.
Just kidding.
Absolutely.
We love Doug.
Yeah.
But
Dougie Fresh.
Or these days, maybe Dougie not so fresh. But I mean, so this has kind of been like in a sense, you're getting to live out a bit of a lifelong dream.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, yeah. Like I told you, growing up a Packer fan, I was a Bart Starr fan. And when I was a young kid, I got to meet him in Green Bay and got a tour of the facilities, something that had never happened before. And when I saw that and met him, I'm like, that's something I want to do. And like I told you, it took me a while. I got my degree from Northwestern State, went to school here. I took a football coaching methods class under Johnny Emmons back in the day. Johnny Emmons, our former baseball coach, was a football assistant. And I was in a class with a bunch of jocks. And here's this nerdy kid with glasses taking this football class. And I got an A in that class. And he singled me out in front of everybody about my philosophy, my coaching philosophy, and my offensive philosophy. And I'm like, okay, maybe I can do something with this. And with his support and everything, and getting to meet Coach Sam Goodwin during my days when I was working for the radio station and the TV station, those guys kind of pushed me in that direction. That really gave me a lot of support from Coach Goodwin, and Coach Emmons.
We'll go back to Coach Goodwin, and we've talked about it a couple of times here at the luncheons when we've had him ahead of home games. Your next one coming up, November 14th. If you're in Natchitoches watching this, 11:30 a.m. November 14th. Merci beaucoup. Little quarterback club luncheon plug there for you. But it's been really nice to see him back around. And
absolutely.
I know that his relationship with Coach McCorkle is a big part of that. But for you to get to sit there and kind of reminisce with him, he's been at practices.
Yes.
It's got to bring back a touch of the old days.
It does. I love being around Coach Sam. Coach Sam is Northwestern State football. You think about Alabama football, who do you think of? Nick Saban. You think Northwestern State football, Sam Goodwin. And, I'll never forget when I was a sideline reporter to this day, and he still gives me a hard time about it. We were playing Nickel State here at home, and we were moving the ball up and down the field, but we could not punch it in. We get into the red zone, and we would stall. And I had to question him at halftime, and I posed that question to him, like, Coach, what seems to be the problem? You guys are up and down the field, moving it up and down the field, yet we can't punch it in. Oh, my God, he exploded. Dan, that's a stupid question. How dare you ask me that question? And he chased me to the locker room. He says, if you're going to ask stupid questions in the second half, I'm not talking to you. And you know that accent. So he comes out in the second half and he looks at me and goes, is this a stupid question? I'm like, Coach, I'm just doing my job. So I had to go upstairs to the press box to change out the batteries. And the guy that owned the TV station at the time, Hal Bundrick, is like, that was awesome. I'm like, I'm not going back down for the second half. I'm not going to do this. I can't put up with that again. Sam comes to me at the quarterback luncheon that Wednesday. He says, Dan, I am so sorry. You were just the wrong guy at the wrong place at the wrong time. And we used to joke about it all the time. I wanted to get out of radio at that point.
Well, yeah, he is. And I think the only thing people may quibble with depends on their age. They may think of Bear Bryant with Alabama football.
No, that's true.
They've had a couple of the GOATs, if you want to use that
Yeah,
term.
I can't forget the Bear. I can't forget the Bear. My son will kill me.
They haven't forgotten the Bear.
No, they haven't.
He's been gone a while, and they haven't forgotten
That's
him.
right.
Saban tried, but you never forget the Bear in Alabama.
No, you don't.
But Dan Cord, Director of Football Operations, on the other side of asking questions. Hope I didn't ask any stupid questions.
No, you did great.
You didn't have to chase me to the locker room.
Hope I didn't answer anything wrong.
No, you were good. So, Dan, thank you for your time. We'll be
Thank you.
back with wide receivers coach and recruiting coordinator Carson Stewart when the Demon Huddle, presented by Cross Financial Group, rolls on here on YouTube.
Whether it's in the trailer, behind the camera, or on the air, NSU has a place for you. Learn the ins and outs of an ESPN broadcast while getting a full-fledged education in sports media or broadcast journalism. Northwestern State University. New media, journalism, and communication arts. Learn more at nsula.edu/new media.
Welcome back to the Demon Huddle, presented by Cross Financial Group. Joined now by wide receivers coach and recruiting coordinator Carson Stewart. And Coach, first year here in Natchitoches, and you got through 9 games. You got a bye week. What did you do with your bye week? Because, as we all know, as Coach McCoral said, you don't do anything.
Yeah, personally, I was on the road recruiting. Majority of our staff was on the road as well throughout the whole week. We had some coaches here for coordinator duties specifically, but we were all on the road. I hit some schools in Mississippi, some in New Orleans, so we were out and about running and gunning.
Nothing wrong with that, and especially as the recruiting coordinator, everyone on the staff is assigned a certain geographic area to work with. Kind of enlighten me a little bit. How does that work? Because I'm the guy that has to ask you guys, all right, who's got this area? And we put that in there, and we put all that in. How did you guys go about divvying up those recruiting areas?
Yeah, I think it's all about your strengths as a recruiter. And yes, geography plays a major role in that. Proximity to the university as well, who has more responsibility here, like our coordinators. Our coordinators don't travel too far away in case they have to get back for something in the kick game or offense, defense. But also, what are your strengths in the recruiting world? Do you kind of fit this demographic better? Can you communicate with a certain clientele in a different manner? At the end of the day, you put a good coach in a good recruiting area, and he'll find the right kid.
I've got to say this. After this year, getting to know most of you guys, I obviously knew Coach Gestorb a little bit before you guys got here, but I would think Justin Williamson could probably recruit just about anywhere and be all right.
Yeah, Jay Will can be all over the map. He does a phenomenal job building relationships. So that's one of his qualities as a recruiter. You put him somewhere, he'll close his eyes and find the right guy.
For you, you're a relatively young coach. I can say that, I feel like. You worked your way here from Belhaven, coming with Coach McCorkle. Recruiting coordinator, was that something you've always been one of those guys that's really into recruiting, or is it just a fit of skill situation?
I think what we did at Belhaven was we recruited well. We recruited the right clientele, smart kids, good high character kids that were really good football players. And when we came here, I think what Coach McCorkle did was just find one of his loyal assistants and said, hey, take it and run, make it your own, and if something goes wrong, it's your fault, and I'll yell at you for it. So it's a constant, continual improvement, model that we're always trying to get better. I'm always trying to find a new way to recruit. Can we find a different way to attack a certain young man, his recruiting process, et cetera. But he gave me the title, and I'm not going to let him down.
You've been a coach 6, 7 years now, I guess.
10.
Full-time.
This is year 10.
Oh, year 10. Okay, there you go. So I'm a little bit off. Everything has changed in 10 years. Communication has changed. Social media has changed. How have you seen recruiting change? I'm sure even from level to level, from Division III to Division I's a little bit different, but I think at the heart there's probably some similarities. But the change in the last decade, what's been the kind of the shift in recruiting?
A lot of the change, in my personal opinion, has to kind of do with society's impact on what they want us to do. And with that, the cell phone model, everybody's got Twitter, everybody's Instagram and Snapchat and so on and so forth. And society wants it to look like this. Well, we might not want it to look like that, but we have to be able to adapt. So I think over time, what's happened is more eyes have been on college football than they have been ever before. So with more eyes comes more challenges, and with those challenges, we have to adapt, simply put. And we've done a good job thus far, but we have to do more and continue to adapt, and we are, and we're going to, and it's fun. The changes and adaptations are fun if you make them that way.
Similarly, I think for you, every time I get an email for this, that, or the other, that's basically a spam email, or hey, this is it's a cold call. Used to be in the marketing world a cold call, now it's a cold email.
Yep.
You get it 100 times over. Everything you post on X or Instagram or whatever is responded with somebody, hey coach, here's my stats,
right.
Here's my film. How do you filter through all that?
So about 150 some emails a day, and about maybe half of that on Twitter, et cetera. But I always look at the position and location. We still want to make a home base here in Louisiana, Mississippi, Texas, Arkansas, in our backyard. So if I'm getting an email or a Twitter from somebody in Utah, I'll filter to the position coach, say, hey, you can still run through it if you want to, but just know we want to start here and then grow our horizons as we go from there.
Sounds very similar to Coach's offensive philosophy.
Similar.
Start inside, work out.
That's right. Very similar.
For you, handling, switching over wide receivers coach again, you've kind of had some guys under your watch as we go more to the football side now that have really sparkled this year. I think Miles Kent-Denton stands out the most. And what's your relationship with him been like?
Personally, Miles and I have a very strong relationship. We're very open with each other, and sometimes that openness can get pretty heated in a good way. Miles is a fierce competitor, and that whole room is. I think what you've seen the last couple of weeks in that room specifically is guys just latch onto each other and grow. The unity has been really cool to see grow because they're competing. And competition breeds success. That's all we're trying to do here. There's plenty of guys in that room, a whole handful, that can just go out there any given Saturday and play good ball.
One you may have to share with a couple different rooms, or a guy that's ping-pong between rooms, is Kareem Cotton. And we talked about Miles Kent-Denton and what he's done, but Kareem, for the time he's been here, the work he's put in and the shifts he's had to make, that's a pretty remarkable thing to watch what he's got going this year.
Yeah, Kareem is a great athlete, but he's a better person. And when you mix those two together, you get a pretty good product on the field. Kareem has bought into juggling multiple roles. And when he does that with his head held high, he's able to do things successfully on the field. And he's going to find a new role every day and every week. And that's our job, to kind of help him progress through that. But Kareem's an awesome young man. His best days are ahead of him, too.
I want to go back to the run he had. I think it was the play when Q's helmet came off and he comes in and you run a quarterback power or whatever it was, and it goes for 21 yards because he looks like Marshawn Lynch back there. Is that part of coming from playing receiver? You don't think of a lot of quarterbacks as guys that are going to lower a shoulder and run through somebody. Is that a little bit of the receiver influence? Because your guys have to block too. There's a lot of physical stuff that people may not see from a receiver.
Right, yeah, no block, no rock, but I think Kareem just in general has a good knack for the game, and he understands the physical side as well as the mental side. Remember, he did play some quarterback prior to getting in the receiver room a little bit. I just think he likes some contact, and that's not a bad thing. Him and Marshawn Lynch might have some different qualities, but some similarities as well when it comes to the physical side.
I think both of them probably like to have fun. Looks like Kareem's always very vocal in a good way for this team.
Yeah, Kareem has fun, and he channels that to make it positive fun for his teammates.
You guys will head down to Southeastern as we'll talk a little bit more football, and then we'll let you out of here as you survive this time here on the Huddle. The challenge is, we talked with Coach about it. It's Monday, and again, we're a few days out, but if you look and you're playing weatherman, there's something brewing in the Gulf, and you got to be aware of that. The challenge is when you go, receivers, everybody thinks you got to have 75 and sunny and no wind for it to be good. What are the challenges for a receiver room when there's potential rough weather?
Yeah, I think when it comes to the receiver room, if there's potential rough weather, your focus has to go up. You got to get your eyes out of your break point 10 times faster than on a warm, sunny day. Your hands have to be in the right spot at the right time, more importantly than on a warm, sunny day. We don't preach body catches very often because that's when the ball is going to pop off and it's going the other way for 6 probably. But there will be times in a potential poor weather situation where you have to use your body wisely to protect yourself and secure the ball. But I think the biggest thing is just focus. You focus on the ball, nothing else matters. Nothing else matters.
I will say this. I think the one body catch we've seen was Miles's down the left sideline against Lamar. That was a pretty nice grab for a guy that couldn't play receiver.
That's right. He's doing a great job at it.
Coach, you made it through. Recruiting coordinator, wide receiver coach, recent newlywed, somewhat. So congratulations. There you go. Show the ring. Carson Stewart wrapping things up here for another edition of the Demon Huddle presented by the Cross Financial Group here on YouTube.